It's been a long time since we reacted to Mr. Ballen because we're cursed. Every time we try to do a Mr. Ballen reaction, I end up screwing it up. Like the last time.
Only his videos.
Only his videos. The last time I double clicked the record button, I think, and that caused us to like turn off the recording.
Yeah.
We just kept going on.
So
yeah,
we're going to be on YouTube. It's going to look like we skipped number 5. We watched it. But if you weren't live, it's just
that
gone.
was an exclusive.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing that one time and that one time only. So
yes. So it's going to look like, from 4 to part 6, but we are moving on to top 3 stories that sound fake but are 100% real, part 6.
Damn. So without any further ado, I think we should just jump in and start balling.
Let's go.
Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and today we're going to look at 3 stories that demonstrate that. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times.
John B.
So if that's of interest to you, please get a job as a barista at the Like Button's favorite Starbucks, just so you can give them a severely burnt cup of coffee.
Oh my God.
Also, please subscribe to our channel and
that's
turn on
me.
all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
Phantom.
On February 17th, 2004, shoppers inside of a massive Japanese superstore called Jusco in Wakachi City were suddenly aware of a loud commotion. When they went to investigate, they found a thin young woman with a young baby strapped to her chest, grappling with an older man. Initially, onlookers didn't know what to do. They stood there shocked at what they were seeing. Then the woman yelled out, "Thief!" The man she was fighting with was in his late 60s, and he had pinned the woman and her baby up against this bank of ATMs, and his fists were clenched like he was holding whatever it was he took from her. 3 men from the crowd immediately jumped into action and wrestled the man off of the woman and pinned him to the ground and began trying to pull his hands open to take out whatever he had stolen from this woman. But the man would not unclench his fists. And so these 3 men yelled out to the police that happened to be nearby. They ran over and jumped on top of this guy and handcuffed him. And the man, as he's laying on the ground, is yelling out that he did nothing wrong. And then onlookers would say he began moaning very strangely before he began violently vomiting before falling unconscious. While the police waited for emergency services to show up and take this man to the hospital, they were able to open up his fists and discovered the only thing he was clutching was his own bank card that was now bent in 3 places. The wallet he had on him belonged to him, and the bags that were lying on the ground all around him only contained some pet supplies that he had recently purchased. It did not appear he had actually taken anything from this woman. And speaking of this woman, the police were so caught up in the chaos of the moment that they hadn't even thought to look around for the victim to see if she was okay. So they poked their heads up and start looking around the crowd for this woman, but she's nowhere to be seen. And so they asked the crowd, do we know who she is or where she went? And nobody knew. The police did think it was odd that this woman had walked off without talking to them first. But they figured if she walked away, then everything must be fine. And so they labeled the incident an attempted robbery, and they closed the case. The following day, the older man, who became known as Mr. A by police, died at the hospital as a result of heart failure caused by extreme stress. When the police found out about this, they simply went into the case file, updated it to show the suspect had died, and did not investigate further. But Mr. A's family refused to believe he had just attacked a young woman and her baby. It was completely out of character. He was a gentle retiree who had spent 40 years working for a chemical manufacturer and now was collecting a pension and working part-time as a security guard. He lived with his wife, his children, and his grandchildren, and he lived about a kilometer away from the Jusco, where he had gone that day to get some hamster food for his grandson's hamster. His family pleaded with police to reopen the case and investigate this woman because she must have done something to start this altercation. The police initially resisted, but ultimately conceded and said, okay, we'll check the CCTV camera footage of the Jusco to make sure we didn't miss anything. What they discovered terrified
She's
them.
not on the
A camera overlooking the ATM bank where this whole scuffle went down picked up this woman about 5 minutes before Mr. A walked into frame. She was standing in a corner just off to the side of the ATMs, and she did appear to have a 2-year-old or 1-year-old strapped to her chest, and she was just standing there motionless with her back to the corner looking down. And then when Mr. A came into frame, he appeared to pull some money out of the ATM. He had bags all over his arms. He turned around after getting his cash and started walking away. And as soon as he does, the woman in the corner suddenly becomes animated. She lifts her head up straight past him, skimming his chest with her hand as she passed. Right after she did that, it was like Mr. A had a reaction to being touched by her, and he instinctively grabbed her arm, and that's when the struggle ensued, and that's when the woman yelled out, "Thief," although it's clear from the footage that she is the aggressor, not Mr. A. And then at some point, the three men jump out of the crowd, they pull him to the ground, the police show up, and then at some point during this chaotic melee, the woman just stands up and meanders her way into the crowd and disappears. Although the police searched every piece of footage in and around this ATM all around the time of the incident, they never found any footage of this woman entering or exiting the Jusco. It was like she just appeared in that corner in order to go after Mr. A and then vanished as soon as it was done. And none of the dozens of witnesses that watched the scuffle take place right in front of them in broad daylight were able to provide any sort of meaningful description of this woman. It was like nobody got a really good look at her. But after reviewing hours and hours of the CCTV footage, the police did find one instance where this woman, for 1 second, looked up at a camera exposing her face. And her face was so unsettling to police that they actually decided not to share the image with the public for an entire year. They were scared that if people saw this image, it would scare them from ever going back to Jusco. This is the image of the woman. As you can see, her face is totally emotionless. Her eyes are blank and downcast. Some have compared her face to a death mask, which is a plaster cast.
It looks like a mask.
Yeah.
Other people have said she doesn't even look human. After seeing the CCTV footage, Mr. A's relatives sued the police for detaining him and pinning him to the ground despite his obvious medical distress as a result of whatever this woman did to him. Eventually, they did reach a settlement, but what they really wanted was an explanation for who this woman was. But even after the police released this strange photo to the public, nobody ever came forward, so she was never identified. And it's unlikely she'll ever be identified.
Was that even actually a baby?
The limitations for this case expired in 2010.
Oh,
the case, which is now referred to as the Jusco Phantom, is still very famous in Japan, and it remains a popular topic on long internet chat room threads where people exchange this eerie photograph and speculate about who or what killed Mr. A.
Damn.
Yeah, super weird. Slug.
In 2010, Sam Ballard was a 19-year-old living in Australia. He was a college student and a standout rugby player. His mother described him as being invincible. One night, Sam and his buddies were over a friend's house having what they called a red wine appreciation night, where they sarcastically pretend to be grown-ups by only drinking wine instead of beer. And after hours of drinking and joking around, they were standing in the backyard on the patio when they noticed a small slug crawling across the ground. And at some point, one of the boys yelled out, "Hey, someone should eat that!" But no one was taking him seriously.
Dude, I knew that's what this was going to be.
But Sam took it as a challenge and said, "You know what?" And everyone was like, "No way, you're not going to eat that slug." But them telling him he wasn't going to do it, so he picked that slug up.
Sounds like my brother.
And he ate it. And the boys howled with laughter. They were so impressed. And for the rest of the night, he was the king. The next morning when Sam got up, he noticed a dull ache in his legs. He attributed the pain to his hangover and expected it to clear by the evening. But by the end of the day, the fog of his hangover had gone away, but the pain in his legs had not. The following day, when he woke up, the pain was not only still there, it had intensified. And so he told his mother about it, and her first concern was that he could be developing multiple sclerosis, something his dad had. Sam was concerned about that too, but he also told her that he had eaten this slug, and he was concerned that, maybe this could be some sort of allergic reaction to that. And his mother said, "You know what, you got nothing to worry about with the slug. Nobody gets sick from things like that."
Yes,
so they went to the doctor, and multiple sclerosis was very quickly ruled out, which was a huge relief to the Ballards. But the doctor said they didn't really have a good reason for why Sam was experiencing this leg pain. Sam brought up the fact that he had eaten this slug, and even though his mom didn't think it was a big deal, he was wondering if maybe this could be an allergic reaction. And the doctor said that off the top of their head, they had no idea if the slug had anything to do with his leg pain. But a couple of days later, the doctor called Sam back and said they'd had a chance to do some research, and they spoke to their colleagues, and it looks like Sam had something called rat lungworm disease. This is an infection most commonly found in rats that's caused by a parasitic worm that can be passed down to snails and slugs if they eat the rat feces that contains the parasite's larva. Based on Sam's symptoms, which now included persistent dizziness and vomiting, the doctor informed him that most likely the slug he consumed at that party was a carrier of the parasite. The doctor informed the Ballards that most people who contract rat lungworm disease do so from eating undercooked or raw snails, and they recover without incident once the parasite dies. But in very rare cases, the parasite can penetrate the intestine, traverse the nervous system, and then burrow itself into the outer lining of the brain, causing patients to suffer from a very rare form of meningitis that can be deadly.
Ooh.
Sam and his family were told there wasn't much anybody could do to help treat his symptoms, and so all they could really do was just wait to see how severe his case was going to be. And unfortunately, Sam's was extremely severe. Just a few days after his diagnosis, Sam did develop the rare form of meningitis and slept into a coma for 420 days. When he finally woke up, he was paralyzed, he wasn't able to speak, and he couldn't eat without a feeding tube. He required care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the disease did not affect his mental faculties. He was just as sharp as ever. One of his best friends, Jimmy Galvin, who was there the night Sam ate the slug, said he went into Sam's room after he came out of his coma, and he told Sam how sorry he was, that he didn't try to stop him from eating the slug. And although Sam couldn't speak or react in any way, he cried because clearly he had understood what Jimmy had told him. Sam was eventually released from the hospital in a motorized wheelchair 3 years after being admitted.
Fucking
He would only
hell,
live
dude.
another 5 years before the infection claimed his life. Sam kept a copy of the Dr. Seuss book, All the Places You'll Go, close to him over the 8 years following his diagnosis. The book was Dr. Seuss's final salute, offering encouragement to children as they deal with life's inevitable obstacles. Over the years, as he struggled with his severe disabilities, his friends and family would read from this book, willing him to make the best of the challenges he was facing. And then as his friends and family said their final goodbye at his funeral, the book was read one last time.
No, thank you, dude. I'm not
When
even
Conrad
shit.
Roland was a little kid, he was always on the go. One time when he was at the grocery store with his mother, he leapt out of the cart and ran away from her, and she found him stuck inside of a freezer. After that incident, she literally made him wear bells on his shoes when they were out in public so she didn't lose track of him. But by the time Conrad was just 4 years old, he had discovered athletics. And instead of putting his energy into running away from his mom, he focused it exclusively on baseball, basketball, soccer, and tennis. And by the time he was 11 years old, he was an exceptional all-around athlete. And at the time, his school announced they were going to have this special guest speaker at an assembly, and it turned out to be the Hall of Fame baseball player, Rod Carew. And Conrad was just blown away. He just could not believe he was in the presence of an actual professional athlete, let alone a guy that had achieved the success Rod Carew had. And so after this assembly, when he got home, it was all Conrad could talk about, was just how incredible Mr. Carew was and how he, Conrad, was going to be a professional athlete just like Mr. Carew. For many kids, this would just be a phase. They'd be really invested in sports, and then their interest would go somewhere else, and they'd kind of forget about it, and it would not be their life calling anymore. But for Conrad, the impression Rod Carew left on him was so profound that he never wavered. He really did dedicate himself to becoming a professional athlete, and he would be successful, albeit in a different sport. He became a professional football player.
Crazy.
In the NFL. And in 2012, Conrad started nearly every game for the New York Jets at tight end. It was like his professional career was going off without a hitch. But in 2013, he injured his knee, which sidelined him for about 2 years. And even though he diligently rehabbed and got back to full strength, the teams were not really ready to take a flyer on him because they were worried his knee would just give out again. He continued to train extremely hard in hopes of landing another contract, but his playing career was starting to look bleak. During the 2016 offseason, Conrad was back home in California visiting his family. One night, as his mother, Mary, was making dinner, Conrad was sitting at the table filling out his driver's license renewal form. And when he got to the section where it asked him if he wanted to be an organ donor, he stopped and he asked his mother, are you an organ donor? And she would say, yeah, I am. And so Conrad said, okay, then I will be too. And he checked the box. And Mary remembers thinking, gosh, I really hope it never comes to that. A few months later, Conrad was working out in a local gym getting ready for the next season when he developed a sudden and severely painful headache. He tried to keep working out, but he just could not do it. So he stepped aside and he called his mom and he told her that he felt this weird click in his head and then he felt this blinding pain behind his left eye. His mother told him he needed to go to the hospital right away. And so that day, Conrad went over to the UCLA Medical Center where they quickly diagnosed him with a brain aneurysm.
Oh.
Brain aneurysm is the bulging or ballooning of a blood vessel in the brain. If the aneurysm bursts, it's fatal about 50% of the time. And
I
for the
didn't know
people who
that.
survive a ruptured aneurysm, most likely they will suffer from significant neurological deficits. After his diagnosis, Conrad remained positive and assured his family he was going to kick this thing's butt. But on December 12th, just 4 days after he was admitted, Conrad's aneurysm burst and he never regained consciousness. Because Conrad was an organ donor, the doctors kept his body on life support and they called the recipients at the top of the donor lists. One of them was a man in his 70s who a year earlier had suffered a massive heart attack and desperately needed a new heart. When he and his wife got the call, they were shaking. They couldn't believe it. His life was about to be saved. They already lived right near Los Angeles, so they hopped in their car and they sped to the UCLA Medical Center, and shortly thereafter, news out of the operating room was the transplant had been a success. The man Conrad's heart had just saved was none other than Baseball Hall of Famer Rod Carew, Conrad's childhood hero that had pushed him to become a professional athlete. At first, the families had no idea, but eventually this incredible link was discovered, and immediately the two families bonded. Today, because Conrad's family only lives 12 miles away from Rod Carew and his family, Conrad's mother was given a standing invitation by the Carews to stop by anytime she wanted to listen to her son's heart. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's video, let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it, so give us the timestamp. And if you're the first to do that, we will pin you at the top of the comments section. If you enjoyed today's video and you haven't done this already, please get a job at the like button's favorite Starbucks just so you can give them a severely burnt coffee every morning. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 3 or 4 video uploads. If you want to get in touch with me,
you okay?
Yeah.
Me on Twitter or on Instagram. My username for both platforms is the same. It's John.
I need to just keep tissues in here.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
That touched you?
Yeah.
You were touched?
Yeah.
Nikki was touched. That is beautiful, though. I knew as soon as the organ donor thing came up, I was like, that baseball.
Well, no, you did? Yeah. I didn't. I knew that something would happen
because that would
bad.
be the wildest thing that you could think
of. To tie it back to the beginning of the story. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Dude, what about that slug, though?
Okay, so I knew that that's what was going to happen because when I was like 10, there's a show. I don't know if it's like an international thing. Like if it was just, but you could find it on YouTube.
The Monster Inside You or something like that?
No, we don't talk about that show. I watched it once. No, I think I watched the first season. And I watched that, and guess what? They were like diagnosing this one lady with some terrible parasite, and then at the end of it, they were like, yeah, it's only regional to the Appalachian Mountains in this one part, and you have to walk outside barefoot. I walked outside barefoot
all the time.
Every single day. When I was watching this episode, I was like, I have to wear shoes for the rest of my life. But there was a TV show when I was like young, like 10, and it was 1,000 Ways to Die.
Yeah.
And the stories were real, but they like amped it up.
Right.
They like done scenes and like it was a ridiculous TV show. But this dude was trying to impress this girl, and he was making her
always how it goes.
A homemade dinner, but he like went outside and found random snails, and he was like, "We're having escargot," and so I guess you eat them raw. I don't fucking know, but anyway, they ate their dinner, they did their thing, and then they both got put in the hospital and died because you can't fucking eat that shit.
And then there was the first story.
I don't even remember the first story now.
You don't?
No.
It was the...
the Phantom. Yeah.
So,
I don't know about that one.
I think that was a mask, and he may have even been poisoned or something.
Or like, you know how they have like those TENS machines? Like maybe like put it on his heart or something?
Maybe she was trying to shock. Maybe that wasn't even a baby. It
like
was
it was
some
a
kind
device
of thing.
Or something?
But she was trying to steal from him, I believe.
You think so?
Or if it was even a female, it could have been just somebody wearing...
Yeah, who knows?
Come on, man. I'm
That's
gonna bring
a mask.
This back up. There ain't no question if this is a mask.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like a real face.
It was 100% a mask.
I thought that it was going to be like a ghost story, and then when they played the CCTV recording back, that it was just going to be him, and like she wasn't even going to be there, and I was going to be like,
Persona 5, they're the Phantom Thieves. They wear masks and they steal people's hearts. Okay, just saying.
Oh no!
That's a mask, dude.
Yeah, that doesn't even look like a real person.
Let me make this a wee bit bigger. Mask. What do y'all say?
It doesn't like.
I think it looks like a mask.
Unless the TVs are so shitty, but it looks like a mask and it kind of looks like a wig.
It looks like a mask. But
anyway,
Mr. Ballen, top 3 stories that sound fake but were 100% real, part 6. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you enjoyed this. You got to give some love to Mr. John B. Allen. Go check out his channel and look at all those creepy videos that he has. We're going to be going on a roll of these. We're going to get through all of them. Eventually, we will get back to the other John B. Allen reactions. But as he said, he posts them 3-4 times a week. We're never going to keep up with all his videos, but we'll be back on to watching them because I've enjoyed this one so far.
Yeah, me too.
Nikki was touched. So cute.
I mean, this one was a little sad.
Whenever you start crying, I'm like,
Chad!
I have a hard time not crying when you
start
crying.
I thought you meant you were laughing at me.
When I see you start to tear up, it makes it even worse for me. But
this is like the 7 pounds. Like the first time that I watched 7 pounds, and the only time that I will ever watch it, I was like, it was bad. Like my dad was like, "Oh my god, like, are you okay? Do we need to stop this movie?" I was
super emotional.
Like it was bad. It was bad.
So if you enjoyed our reaction to this, you could subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and do all the good stuff to us. That helps us.
I guess you could do that in the comments on our Discord, on our Twitch, or on our Patreon.
Yeah, suggest some shit. Hang out with us. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself. But that's going to do it for this one. See y'all.
See you guys.